today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. I actually had a really good reading month in April once again, and I was really surprised about it because I remember like toward the beginning of April, I want to say when we were like around April 7th, April 8th, for some reason I was like, oh my god, we're halfway through the month and I haven't read like anything and this is horrible. And even though that was not at all the case, I just ended up like ravenously reading because I was like, I feel like I'm so far behind, but I really wasn't. So I ended up reading a total of 12 books this month, I think. Yes, 12 books. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So the first book that I read was That Summer by Sarah Dessen. So I finally read a Sarah Dessen book. This is the first one that I have read and I did not like it. I am going to read more of her books though. I've heard from a lot of people that this is one of their least favorites, but I wanted to start here because this was the first book that she wrote. So I wanted to just continually like have better and better ones as I keep reading. So this one followed a girl who, honestly, there was like not really anything that happened, which is part of the reason that I didn't really like it. It follows a girl who lives in a small town and her father is, he cheated on her mom and then he's getting remarried, and her sister, her older sister is like getting married. And there's like this model that was out of town and now she's back and her life is a mess and this girl's life is a mess. So it was just like, it kind of had like a parallel between their two lives, but it was like really boring. So I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan, and this is the third book in the Percy Jackson series, and I'm so happy to say that I ended up loving this one so much. The first 2 books I wasn't like super into, like I thought that they were enjoyable, but I wasn't like, oh my god, these are the greatest things ever. But now with this third book, I was like, wow, this really got me like way more invested in the story, and I really liked everything that was going on with the different characters. I liked seeing Artemis and just the whole storyline that was going on in this one. I don't want to spoil it, even though it seems like everyone in the world has read the Percy Jackson series except for me. But I really loved it, and I'm really glad because I always felt like I was not part of the Percy Jackson fandom because I didn't really like the first ones as much as other people, but now with this one, like, I loved it. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm definitely planning on finishing this series before the end of the year. So I ended up giving The Titan's Curse 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Winter Song by S.J. Jones, and this is one that I had been highly anticipating because it is a labyrinth retelling. I really enjoyed the beginning half of it, but I didn't really enjoy the ending half. Well, first of all, there were some like loose ends, but it sounds like she's writing a companion novel, so they will be tied up there. But I just felt like there was like a lot of build-up, and then the ending was kind of anticlimactic, but I did really enjoy the beginning half. So it follows a girl named Liesel whose sister has been stolen by the Goblin King, and she has to go and like try to get her back. You would think that that would be like the story, but that's really only the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book takes place in the underground with the Goblin King and his world. And it was really interesting. It was I really enjoyed like the way that it was written, and I liked Liesel as a character, but I just didn't like love it. So I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Long Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is the second book in the Fixer series, and I loved this book so much. Like, I really enjoyed the first one, but this one I like so far beyond loved. It was so much better than the first one. It follows a girl named Tess, and she's living in Washington, D.C. And it's like a political thriller. So there are all these like crazy things happening, and her sister is very involved in politics. I don't want to say, again, obviously it's the second book, so I don't want to spoil anything, but this book was just like so exciting. Every single page was thrilling, and there are really short chapters, so it's a really quick read, and the characters are amazing. I love Asher so much. He is like by far my favorite character, but there are so many strong females in here, and there is not really any kind of romantic relationships, which is nice. It's all like take charge women solving problems, and like it's just awesome. Like, it's just really awesome. The one thing that I will say though is that this book was sold as a duology, so this is the second book, but the ending leaves you needing more. Like, everything is tied up and there is the potential for a third book. There needs to be a third book. So unfortunately at this time, I guess the sales weren't good enough for the third book to be purchased, which is really sad because it's just such a great series, but I'm still really happy that I read it because I just loved this book so much. Like, it was so much fun. And I ended up giving The Long Game 5 out of 5 stars. Then I finally got to read one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that was Fireworks by Katie Cotugno. Katie Cotugno is one of my favorite contemporary authors, and this is her newest book. It just came out on April 11th, I want to say, and I literally read it the day that it came out because I was so excited for it. It follows a girl named Dana and her best friend Olivia, and the two of them, well, it takes place during the 90s in Orlando, like during the whole like boy band craze. So the two of them end up getting discovered, and they become part of this band called Daisy Chain, I believe. It's just about them like living their complex, the things that they need to do in order to become a pop star, and there's a lot of like competition that seems to be happening between the two of them, which was never there before. And it's also really interesting because Dana never had this as a dream for herself. She never had any interest in being a pop star, but it's Olivia, like that is all that Olivia has ever wanted for herself. So it's interesting to see the two of them and their attitudes toward it, and just the way that it affects their friendship. Katie Cotugno always explores really complicated relationships, and in this one it was a friendship, and I really, really enjoyed that. The love interest Alex is really adorable, so I really enjoyed this one. It was not my favorite book of hers overall, but I still loved it, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read the third volume of the Princess Jellyfish manga. I was really excited about this because I've just been loving this series so much. I didn't like this one as much as I liked the first 2 volumes. There were aspects of it that I did like it focused a lot more on the fashion line and what they're going to be like doing going forward with that, but it wasn't my favorite one that I've read so far, so I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Famous in Love by Rebecca Searle, and I read this one because I wanted to read it before the Freeform series came out. I wanted to say Hulu series because that's where I've been watching it. I read it like the day before that series debuted so that I would have it like fresh in my mind and everything, and it is completely different from the show so far. So this book follows a girl named Paige who is like a young girl who gets discovered at this audition, and she ends up getting the lead role in a movie that is based on a book series that like people are obsessed with, and it's very clearly like kind of like a Twilight type series. There's a love triangle. There's this girl who she ends up like shipwrecked on this island, and there's this guy who's like tied to the island, and then there's her love interest from before the plane crash, and it's a cute story. I really liked that it's not that she just got discovered to be in a movie, but that it's a movie based on a book. I thought that was really cool. But overall, the characters were kind of forgettable. Like, it was a cute, fun story while I was reading it, but I just didn't really like care that much about any of them. So I thought it was fun, it was cute, it was a day of reading. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, and I actually think that I am enjoying the television show more than I liked the book. But I still want to read the second book because I think it's only a duology, so I may as well finish it. Then I read The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher, and I really loved this book. It was really fun to like go back and see all of the things that Carrie had written while she was filming Star Wars. This book focuses very heavily on her affair with Harrison Ford. It was really sad too to read it because one of the reasons that she said that she decided to write this book is because she was like, if I die one day, people will speculate about this like after I'm gone, and I would rather tell the truth of my side of the story. And obviously now Carrie is no longer with us, and that happened like very shortly after this book was published. But I ended up really enjoying it. I especially loved seeing all the like just past photos, like set photos of her and Harrison and Mark Hamill, just like behind the scenes filming Star Wars and stuff. So it was really like enjoyable and nostalgic, and it's really hard for me to rate nonfiction, but it would probably fall somewhere in the like 3 to 4 star range for me. Then I read Geek Arella by Ashley Poston, and I really loved this one. It's a Cinderella retelling. I know I talked about it in my book haul and a video before that, but I ended up loving this book like so much. It follows a girl named Elle, and she is so heavily invested in this fandom called Starfield. It's very similar to Star Trek, but but Star Trek still does exist like in the same world, so it's not that, but it like essentially is. They decide to do like a reboot of it, and they're gonna be movies, and they cast this actor in it. Oh yeah, I have short hair now, isn't that crazy? I guess I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video, but I'm sure you noticed. So, okay, so this actor gets cast in the lead role of this movie that she's like so invested in because this fandom is like her life. And he's this guy that's really only acted in a soap opera before, and he's always in the tabloids, and he's on this morning show, and he gets what is seemingly like a very simple question about the fandom incorrect. And she is just livid that they would cast this person that isn't as invested as her or like any of the other people that just love this so much, because they want so badly for this movie to like do the fandom justice, and they're just not convinced that he's going to be able to be the one to do that for them. And Elle actually also runs this blog called, I think it's called Rebel Gunner. She writes this article about how like all the reasons why he is not a good person for this role. And then he ends up seeing it, and the two of them, by like some happenstance, end up communicating with one another. And then there's this sci-fi convention called ExcelsiCon that Elle's father created before he passed away, and everything like leads up to that convention, and there's like a big cosplay contest that's gonna be happening, and I don't want to give away anything else, but I loved it so much. I feel like a lot of times fandom books can be kind of hit or miss for me, but this one was so great. It's fun that it's a Cinderella retelling, but what really like did it for me is the fact that she just captured the feelings of fandom so perfectly. Everything that Elle felt about Starfield is like the way that I feel about Star Wars. So I just felt like it was really relatable, and I like that she showed like so many different types of fans, and just like different situations that I felt like were so real to life, and like things that I've experienced. And I just loved it. Like it's one of my favorite books of the year so far. So obviously this was 5 out of 5 stars. I was wrong, I read 13 books, even better. Then I read I Believe in a Thing Called Love by Maureen Gu. This is an arc because this book's coming out on, I want to say May 30th. It follows a girl named Desi who is like your A+ student. She is so good at everything that she tries to do. She can follow rules to a T, but the one thing that she's never experienced is love, and she thinks that it's because there aren't really any like guidelines to help you get there. So she decides to start studying K-dramas because her dad is like obsessed with them. Like starts watching them and then decides to apply all of the rules of K-dramas to her love life in order to get this guy Luca to fall in love with her. And this book is just like so outlandish. Like it was really fun. It was really funny. So Desi meets this guy named Luca, and then she writes out all of these steps about how she can get him to fall in love with her. And it's just so chaotic, and they are absolutely the kinds of situations that you would see play out on K-dramas, but you would think would like never happen in real life. So you do have to suspend some disbelief and just kind of go with it. I would say this book is definitely not for everyone just because it is so out there, but it was really fun. And if you're familiar with K-dramas at all, I think that you'll appreciate it even more than if you haven't watched any of them. But I thought it was really fun. It was just crazy. And like Desi is just an insane character, but she's still lovable. So I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Mudokon and the 7 Witches, Volume 8, and this one was such a quick read for me. I need to catch up on this series because I think that I have 13 volumes of it now, and I've obviously only read through 8, but I love it so much. I binged the majority of it last October, and then I don't know why, but I just like took a break from it. But reading this one this past month reminded me how much I love it. It's so funny, it's so cute, and it was just really entertaining. And again, it's the 8th volume, so I can't really tell you what happened in it because there's a lot of story before this one, but I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, and I loved this book so very much. This book honestly just makes me like so incredibly happy. Cassie and I did our live show yesterday for this book, for the Spines with Wines book club, and I will leave a link to that down below if you want to hear like all of my very in-depth thoughts about this book. That will be spoiler filled though, so if you haven't read it, don't watch it yet. But I just really loved it. It follows a girl named Molly, and she's had 26 unrequited crushes in her life. She has a twin sister named Cassie who just gets her first real girlfriend, but Cassie has like hooked up with a ton of girls in the past. And she's very like self-assured, and she like puts herself out there all the time, and Molly is very self-conscious, and she has never really like told any of the guys that she likes them, but things just like never work out for her. And then she finally meets two guys that have the potential to be like that first kiss, that first boyfriend, and it's just such a cute, sweet story. And this book is completely packed with diversity, and it's just done so well. Everything like about these people, that's the funny thing too. So every time that I think about this book or think about these characters, I keep referring to them as these people instead of these characters because they just feel so real. And it's just, oh, so good. And there are cameos in it from I keep saying people again. There are cameos in it from characters from Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which was, oh, so good to see. I just loved it so much, and this one was an easy 5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I reread A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas in anticipation of ACOWAR, which is coming out on Tuesday. I actually haven't fully finished my reread yet, but I will be finished by the time it comes out, and I've already read it, so I can tell you that I love it. And I'm really looking forward to getting to the later parts in the book because I reread ACOTAR last month and I enjoyed it, but I was just so annoyed with Tamlin constantly, and now that Rhysand is here, I'm like over the moon happy. And I can't wait for the final book. Like, I need it so bad. And I know people keep saying it's not the final book, there's gonna be more books, and I know that. I'm fully aware that there's gonna be more A Court of Thorns and Roses books like in the world of Prythian, but it's going to be the last book following Feyre and Rhysand's story, so that's why I keep referring to it as the final book. So sorry if I'm confusing you there. There are more, it's just that it's the end of Vaysand. Again, this will be 5 out of 5 stars once I finish reading it. I can confidently say that now since I've already read it. And also I am very proud of myself to continue my like pattern of rereading some favorite books this year, because I just never do that, and I finally am, and it's really great. So those are all of the books that I read in April, because that's the month that just happened. Let me know if you read any of these. Let me know if you want to read any of these, and I will talk to you guys in the comments. Bye!